If you're thinking about taking real food on your long runs and rides, I want you to make sure you're choosing ones that are safe. I watch runners on the internet all the time posting their videos out eating real food, saying how this is so much better than these engineered blocks and goos and gels. And for a short run, yeah, no problem. But let me lay it on you what happens when you take this stuff out for longer runs. Real food has a food safety issue. And in the restaurant industry where I come from, we have this thing called a danger zone. And that danger zone is a temperature range. It's above 40 degrees and it's below 140 degrees. And in that range, between that 40 and 140, is where bacteria is the Goldilocks zone for it. It just grows like crazy, and it grows enough to make you sick. Now, all food, most all food that has some type of bacteria on it, unless it's, well, actually I'd say most all food, unless it's been ultra pasteurized and stuck in like an aseptic container, has some form of bacteria. Now, whether it can grow or not is different because of the type of food that it is. And so what types of foods grow bacteria in this danger zone? Foods that have moisture, protein, and low acidity. And that's a lot of foods. Let me give you an example. How about white cooked rice? I know you're like, wait a minute, didn't Alan Yim write an entire cookbook called The Feed Zone telling people to carry rice cakes with egg and bacon? Yeah, he did. And was it smart for everybody to carry those? No, probably not, because the cookbook didn't have the appropriate types of amendments to the rice to make it so that it would be bacteria free or at least mitigate the growth. But either way, that book was written for people who were pros with sag wagons, right? Who kept the food at a temperature where it was relatively safe and fed at a reasonable time. It didn't exactly translate to the mere mortal folk like us who got to pack this shit in our pockets and go out for 2 to 6 hours in 90-degree heat, right? So not that they misled you on purpose, but I just don't think they paid attention to it. But I want you to, especially ultra runners, carrying this type of food, right, like white rice or egg or any food that's protein, moisture, and low acidity, out for long periods of time outside of that cold or hot, it's going to be dangerous. It's easy. Think about it. You stuff a food in your pack and you go out for a run and it's 50 degrees, 80 degrees, 90 degrees plus your body temperature. That food is well out of that temperature range that's safe. It's definitely in the Goldilocks zone and bacteria is definitely growing. Can you eat it before you're done with 4 hours? Sure. But there is a 4-hour window in the restaurant where if that food is inside that 40 to 140, we got to throw it away because the bacteria risk is too high. It'll make people sick. You don't think about that when you're out on a run and you got a pack full of rice and egg, right? There are other foods that are same. Just think about them. A lot fit the bill. But why specifically did I choose rice? Not because of Alan Yim, but it's a really great example of something called Bacillus cereus, and it's a bacteria that lives on grains. The Chinese restaurants, historically in the past, not now with certain food laws that are recent, but they would take the old steamed rice that they give away for free with your meal, right? Or it's built into the price. Well, they would take the leftover and spread it out across the tables in the restaurant. That cooked rice would then dry out. Well, it makes better fried rice. The problem with it is that leaving it out left it at that danger zone, and that Bacillus cereus bacteria grew crazy. So when we order chicken fried rice, shrimp fried rice, pork fried rice, and we eat it, we get diarrhea, nausea, really bad gas. We're like, God, it had to have been the shrimp. It had to be the pork. No, it was the rice. It was left out. And the same can be said for when you pack that rice with egg with that rice cake that you make the night before, 2 days in advance, and you stick it in your pocket and you're out running for a time. It's going to go bad. If you do this on a short run, 2 or 3 hours, you could probably get away with it. You go out longer, 4 to 6. If you eat it early, sure, that's fine. But if you don't, or let's say you have this practice, because we race on what we practice on, and now you get into a longer race, a 50-mile, 100-mile, multi-day, and you have these snacks, you really do run the risk of having some bigger issues. It's hard enough to do these races. You don't need to be dodging food safety bullets. You just really don't. So can you choose better foods? Yeah, but there's a reason why there's not this whole range of wet, natural food products for us to take on our runs, and food safety is one of them. That time course matters. So you have to pay attention, if I summarize this, to is your food wet? Does it have any type of protein? And does it have a low acidity? And if it does, you don't want to carry it. You just don't. And you certainly don't want to carry it out of that temperature zone of 40 to 140 degrees for longer than 4 hours, and even shorter than 4 hours. The hotter it gets, the shorter the time you have, meaning the more bacteria is going to grow more quickly. Really, it's just not worth it. Now, there are natural foods you can take that are just resist, like bananas. They're naturally okay to be left out. That's a really good example. Do I run with a banana in my pocket? Yeah, absolutely I do. Would I run with cooked rice? Absolutely not. Would I run with cooked rice and egg? Hell no. Would I take a sweet potato? I would, but I wouldn't carry it for a very long time. For the same reason, sweet potato is really wet, it has a low acidity, and it has protein. So give some thought to the foods you're choosing and whether or not it's really worth it. Honestly, I would be more inclined to take a piece of pizza, cheese pizza, with me for a long out run than I would be a cooked rice or eggs or a sweet potato. Honestly, because the bread is hard, the cheese is high fat, so it's really gonna slow down. Probably a ton of sodium, which will slow it down too. Now, I'm not advocating taking pizza with you on the run, but I'm just giving you an idea of the foods you think you can take are probably not the ones you should, and the ones you could are probably not the ones you are. Anyway, give some thought to the food you're taking. Real food on the long run sounds great, but should you really? Probably not, unless you have the logistics down. It's just some food safety that we know every day in the restaurant industry that you should know at home.